All right, time to talk a little bit about BYU's cornerback position. And a few of you reached out, our good friend 49er Coug among them, on Twitter in particular. I had an email about it as well. I believe it was from, double check. It was from Ethan, sent this in and said, Jake, you talked about BYU's safeties. Why did you not mention Micah Harper amongst that? It's coming in from Ethan, 49er who expressed similar sentiments on Twitter. And the reason I didn't put Micah Harper in the safeties position group is because according to the prospectus that BYU issued at BYU Football Media Day, they list him as a cornerback. But I made a mistake, I guess, in a way, because I looked at the depth chart they released as part of that prospectus as well, and they have Micah Harper as a backup safety at the free safety position. So let's talk about BYU's cornerbacks. We'll finish off the defensive backfield for BYU, and let's start off with Micah Harper. I think he ends up playing safety, and he told me as such. Any of you who listened to the podcast we did during spring ball, I had a great one-on-one conversation with Harper, and he told me that he felt like safety was better suited for his skill set coming back off injury from that ACL tear that caused him to miss the entirety of last year. He was a fantastic cornerback as a freshman, albeit a little bit undersized, 5'10". He's not the tallest cornerback out there, but he was more than capable. And I thought he was a fantastic player. But if safety is where he's going to end up, that actually makes it maybe a 5-man rotation, or maybe Micah Harper supplants a guy like a Hayden Livingston in that 4-man rotation. I'm just going off what the roster that gave me. And maybe it's my mistake for forgetting to put Micah Harper with the safeties, but he's got the capability of playing either position. So I'll take him at his word. If he's going to play safety, he makes maybe that top 4 in the safety group for BYU. But at the same time, considering we learned during BYU Football Media Day that Isaiah Herron is retiring from football medically, he also joins Keenan Ellis, who announced he is retiring medically last year after that vicious, well, it wasn't necessarily vicious. It was just a scary, scary situation in that first game against Arizona. Well, both of them retiring. Those are 2 starting caliber cornerbacks for BYU that you've lost suddenly. So maybe Micah Harper is going to be playing a little bit of a tweener to make sure that they're shored up at both positions this year. So that's where Micah Harper stands. What I really like about him is in 2020, he had 25 total tackles as a true freshman, had 1 fumble recovery, 1 pass breakup. The moment was not too big for him that year, albeit the level of competition that BYU faced in 2020, I think we can all admit, was not comparative to what we saw in 2021 or what we will see here in 2022. But Micah Harper is a guy that I absolutely enjoy watching play football. He plays with just a what do you call it? Not an attitude, not arrogance. What am I trying to come up with? He plays with just swagger. There we go, swagger. That's probably a good way to play it. He just goes out there, does his thing, and plays his game. Now, the cornerback position for BYU, I think, has 2 established guys who are going to return and expect to probably be starting for BYU against USF in just over 50 days from now. That obviously is D'Angelo Mandell, a guy who has been a starter for the better part of at least 3 seasons. I guess 2 technically, but he started in parts of 3 seasons for BYU from 2018 to 2021. He had 9 tackles in 2018, 21 in 2019, 6 during 2020, and then had his most this past year with 36 total tackles in the 2021 season. He had 1 pass breakup in 2024 this past year, but his stat sheet in terms of in terms of interceptions, all that other stuff, it's blank for his career. The biggest thing for D'Angelo Mandell this year is going in to this season needs to become more of a playmaker. That is what he needs to be. More pass breakups, interceptions, game-changing plays is what he needs to do. Now, it's not all his fault either, because he was actually very good in coverage, and a lot of teams during last season would actually essentially move away from where he was on the field, whether he was on the right or the left side. That team said, oh, you know what? We're not throwing to that side of the field. We trust this guy can lock up our receivers. And that left a guy like Kaleb Hayes an opportunity to really shine in the absence of spotlight for D'Angelo Mandell. The quote-unquote being on an island, well, D'Angelo Mandell was put on an island, and a lot of teams went away from him, and they went after Kaleb Hayes. And the interesting part about this is Kaleb Hayes, we've talked about this, I've mentioned it, he actually made a run at the pass breakup record in a single season for BYU. Jordan Johnson holds it back from the mid-2000s, if I'm not mistaken, with 15 in a year. At one point, Kaleb Hayes was on track to break that. He ended up with the season having 11 pass breakups, 26 total tackles for the 5'11", 190-pound product out of San Bernardino, California, by way of Oregon State. Hayes is 5'11", 190 pounds, and a guy that I really think should reprise his role. I think that both D'Angelo Mandell and Kaleb Hayes, with good seasons this year, could potentially get NFL looks. They're both listed as juniors. So that's the interesting part about this. Do both of them decide, you know what, I'm going to give it just yet another go in a BYU uniform? Oh, excuse me. No, D'Angelo Mandell is a redshirt senior. I apologize. Same with Kaleb Hayes. Okay, I read that wrong. So they're both seniors. I think they both get NFL looks next year. I truly believe that. They may not get drafted at, probably have to have some special years. D'Angelo Mandell in particular, in terms of production, interceptions, that type of stuff, to get himself with his name called during the NFL draft. But those two, I think, are going to be very, very critical to BYU's success. And now the depth behind them is a massive question with both Isaiah Heron and Keenan Ellis hanging things up. But that is where you enter Gabe Jeudy-Lally, the transfer from Vanderbilt, who started in parts of 3 seasons for the Commodores down there in the SEC. He's 6'2", 185 pounds, a redshirt sophomore, already graduated from Vanderbilt. This is a very bright young man. I'm not going to be surprised if he takes some playing time right away from guys like Kaleb Hayes and D'Angelo Mandell. He has played in the SEC. He has covered some of the best receivers anybody has ever seen in their entire life during his time playing for the Commodores. He's going to come in and I think immediately challenge for playing time, if not a starting job for BYU. I am very high on Gabe Judy-Lally's opportunity. Prototypical size, has the ability to run with anybody. He showed that at Vanderbilt, and he looked for a new opportunity, and it's good that BYU picked up on this. He obviously tapped into Derwin Gray, who actually coached him during junior high and high school for a time. Derwin, obviously a former BYU standout, was able to sell Gabe a little bit, it sounded like, on BYU and what it could do for him, and they brought him in, and I think he is going to be a guy to keep an eye on because I think he absolutely factors in, at least as a rotation piece at cornerback, if not outright starting at some point this season this year. Other guys to keep an eye on include Jacob Boren. Boren probably plays that nickelback role for BYU alongside a guy like Jacob Robinson. Both of them a little undersized. Boren listed at 5'9", 180 pounds. He appeared in all 13 games last year, had that breakout performance against, Washington State. Very, very good. Jacob Robinson, 5'11", 165 pounds. They're going to be guys, if you go to a 4 wide set, you need to put extra defensive backs on the field. They're the guys that come in to cover those slot receivers. That's what Jacob Robinson and Jacob Boren's goals and duties are going to be for BYU. They obviously in a pinch probably could play that outside cornerback role, but they don't have the prototypical size for that. So that's where Gabe Judy-Lally is getting his opportunity. Another guy to keep an eye on the outside includes Quentin Rice, the former BYU standout Rodney Rice. His son Quentin is a redshirt freshman, a member of the scout team. Quentin's got more of the prototypical size that BYU wants for their outside cornerback. 6'1", 195 pounds. He's got a year of BYU under his belt here. I would expect that he starts to emerge a little bit here, as well as another name in Kaleb Christensen. Christensen has essentially been a special teamer for his entire career at BYU. Saw action in 8 games due to some injury concerns last year, mainly as BYU's main kick returner. Entered the NCAA transfer portal for a spell this offseason to look at his options. Decided it was in his best interest to return to BYU. Christensen is not the biggest guy, 5'10", 195 pounds, but he is a well put together athlete. Can he finally find a spot for himself on the defensive side of the football and maybe emerge a little bit? This year will be the year for him to show that, because if he doesn't, this is where it gets a little hairy for a guy like that, because there are 5 true freshmen on this roster at the cornerback position coming into BYU. Do any of them factor in and potentially play right away? That remains to be determined, and that's where training camp's going to tell us a lot. But you have Zion Allen, 6'1", 160 pounds from Manteca High School in California. You have Nathaniel Gillis, 6'1", 174 pounds from Still Canyon High School in California. Corbin Green from Owasso High School in was Oklahoma, I believe. Corbin is 6', 175 pounds. Evan Johnson, Stevenson High School in Monterey, California, a little tiny school. We talked about George Udo being from a tiny school. This guy's from Monterey, California, where Pebble Beach is from. Yeah. That Evan Johnson, 6'1", 175 pounds. And then the other name on here, I think I got them all. If I didn't, I apologize. I think I got them all. But those guys, they're coming in as true freshmen. They've got the size requirements that BYU has looked for in their cornerback position. Do 1, 2, or 3 of them potentially move into a playing role this year, or do they spend their time because other guys have essentially moved themselves up the depth chart where they're going to be able to spend the time redshirting, maybe playing in 2 or 3 games here and there, and then getting ready to join BYU in their transition to the Big 12 in 2023. The goal, obviously, I think, would be to have D'Angelo Mandell, Kaleb Hayes, and Gabe Judy-Lally pretty much become your three-man rotation that holds down the cornerback position for BYU. You probably have a fourth guy factor in there. I would imagine Quentin Rice probably gets the first crack at that, with guys like Jacob Robinson, Jacob Bourne, and Caleb Christensen probably slotting in at that nickel cornerback spot, where the other freshmen on this roster, you're telling them, you guys are the future, but you're going to redshirt this year, and you're going to get yourselves ready, get your bodies right, gain some weight. In the case of a guy like Zion Allen, 160 pounds, it's pretty skinny on a 6'1" frame at the Division I level. So you need to get those guys up to their requisite weight, and then give them their opportunity to go out there and show what they can do. So that'll be a big key here for BYU, is making sure that they both allow for development of the younger talent at the cornerback position, while also letting their upperclassmen, the two seniors in particular, Caleb Hayes and D'Angelo Mandell, shine a little bit and hopefully get their opportunities when it comes to the NFL level. I truly believe there are three guys in BYU secondary this year who could get NFL looks. Those are D'Angelo Mandell and Caleb Hayes at the cornerback positions for BYU, and then also Malik Moore at the safety position. Crazy to think that BYU could have three guys getting NFL looks from the defensive backfield, considering the desert relatively it's been in terms of opportunities for defensive backs from BYU to make it at the NFL level. For three guys in 1 year to get that crack at it would be pretty impressive, and I'm not going to count it out. I think they all have that capability, but the good news is, also similar to the safety position, it's a well-stocked unit in the cornerback room with a lot of young talent that appears to be on its way to develop themselves as they get ready to make the transition to the Big 12 in 2023.